Welcome to Undercurrents of Romance, the show that celebrates every subgenre of romantic fiction. In each episode, I peel back the layers of your favorite love stories and chat with the talented authors who bring them to life. I'm your host, Tracey Devlyn. Now, let's dive in with today's guest. Hello, Romantics. I'm here with USA Today bestselling author Olivia Dade to talk about her new paranormal romance, ZOMROMCOM. And yes, I did say ZOMROMCOM. Welcome to the show, Olivia.
I am delighted to be here and delighted to chat about ZOMROMCOM, which is exactly what it says on the cover. So,
Perfect branding, absolutely perfect branding. And I forgot to try it, but I understand that the cover, I don't know if it is on the arc or not, but the cover actually glows in the dark. Is that true?
yeah, the little hands coming out and the title and my name and that part all
Nice.
for the all the US printed ones will glow in the dark when people get. I don't think the arc does, unfortunately, but
I
the
should have
final
checked it. I
copies all
forgot.
do.
That's great. That is that's perfect. It's too bad this didn't come out like in October or something like that for Halloween time. That would be fun
Well,
too.
hopefully it'll still be on the shelves. But yeah, I'm living my
Yeah.
Goosebumps R.L. Stein dreams right now with a glow in the dark cover.
Yeah, absolutely. That's true. That's true. Well, your tagline on your website, it says that it's body rom-coms with a big heart. And I think that that sums up Zom rom-com so well. And I love that you embrace that kind of risque side of your stories. It's perfect.
My sense of humor is all over the place, but it's not always innocent. And I just didn't want anyone to come into it unprepared. My book's unprepared for humor on a variety of levels.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's absolutely great. So why don't you just get us started? Tell us a little bit about yourself, your writing journey, just whatever you'd like to share.
Sure. Again, I'm Olivia Dade. I write romantic comedies, to this point, mostly contemporary romantic comedies, but now a paranormal romantic comedy with more to come. It's some in the same series. And I came from an academic background and then, a PhD program. I did not finish it because I was concerned that maybe academia wasn't for me, so I left a little bit after my master's degree in history, American history, and then bounced around at various jobs for a while. So I was a teacher, a high school teacher, very gladly, a high school teacher. I was a public librarian, again, also very gladly. Worked at Colonial Williamsburg in costume, worked as a bakery clerk, all sorts of different things. And then about 11 years ago, for whatever reason, I'd mostly only done academic writing in my past because of, again, my background. But I'd always loved and read romances from well before I should have been reading romances. I was reading
As we all
my
do.
my mother's romances in her closet. There were various things I did not understand until much later. um, and I sat down and just sort of wrote a fictional scene that was meant to be sort of a scene from a romance, and that wasn't going anywhere. But it felt so great, and it satisfied a part of me. I always loved writing, even academic nonfiction writing. And it was so lovely to sort of stretch that muscle again and sort of use a part of my brain that I hadn't really used fully since leaving graduate school, but in a different realm where I could bring in more of my personality and my sense of humor, uh, my sense of fun and emotion and all those things that are less welcome sometimes in academic
Yeah.
writing. But I could bring my whole personality into it in a way that I could not with my academic writing. And it felt like it was finally piecing together the various parts of me that I had not found worked before then that sort of satisfied all the things I wanted to bring to my work.
Mm.
And so it's been 11 years. It is by far the longest I've ever done anything. I have no intention of stopping, and it's been a real joy to write.
Well, real joy, and I could tell you had a ton of fun writing this particular story, and it is a bit of a departure from your contemporary romantic comedies. Why don't you tell us why you decided to write a paranormal zombie romance, and then share what you can about Edie and Max's story, if you don't mind.
Well, I had always been interested in writing different types of books, but you're sort of advised to sort of gain a readership and form a reputation with one type of book first before doing others. So I actually wrote two futuristic sort of sci-fi romances back in the late 2010s that will never see the light of day. They will remain on my hard drive forever. But I all along I'd been writing different sorts of stories and just not doing anything with a lot of them. Uh, but in this case, I had just finished writing At First Sight, which was a contemporary romance that I'm super proud of and love. And I do think it is very funny, but it was also very emotional because
Mm,
a lot of it, that book is also about depression,
mm.
and which is something I experienced chronic depression. And so it was a wonderful book, but kind of a gut punch to write it. And it had a lot more angst as well as humor. And I was angsted out. I'd given it the office. I did not want I wanted to write a book where I would not cry writing it. You wouldn't cry reading it necessarily, just something fun and funny and propulsive and actiony. And I was really curious, like, could it be recognizably my writing, but tailored for a different sort of story? So, like, shorter sentences, for instance. Like, I really had to go through and make sure that even though it was still me and had my authorial voice, that it was not full as quite as much of not as much introspection as normal, and a little bit snappier as far as sentence structure. Uh, so I found myself with about 3 months, 3 or 4 months between books. And I was like, well, no one
Why not?
no one was crying out for me to write a zombie romance. I want to be clear about that. There was no popular demand, but I have a story ideas folder and file, and sometimes I have like several paragraphs about a potential story. Sometimes it's just a name I want to use. And then sometimes it's just a title that I want to use that I think is funny. And years ago, I had written ZOMROMCOM because I was like, to me, that was very funny. Uh, but I, with no intention really of ever using it, but I did keep it in my file. And when I had this free time, I thought, okay, I want to do something that's totally different from what I just wrote, not as angsty. And I'm like, if I were to write a zombie romantic comedy, how would I even go about that? Like, is that something I can even do? My writing, like, and make it recognizably mine and make it something I'm happy with. So I was like, well, let's try. So, I started writing it. It was such a joy to write. It was so much fun to write it. I did a lot of it keeping company with a friend via Zoom and other things. So I sort of had company while writing, and I would tell her my jokes, and she would laugh because she's a good friend and encourage me to keep going. Kat, thank you, Kat. And yeah, it was a joy. So, ZOMROMCOM is a story of a woman named Edie who is living in what's called the containment zone outside a compound of zombies who were created by accident when the government was trying to create secret sort of super soldiers. Things go wrong as they do. And instead of just killing all of them, because the government's still hopeful they could be used again in the future if they could just figure out how, they sort of keep them corralled in this compound. And that area around the compound is called the containment zone, and it is super cheap land because no one, for understandable reasons, wants to live there. Even though in theory it's safe, no one wants to live there right outside DC. So this is land that would have been incredibly valuable that is now super cheap and right near a population center. So people who live in the containment zone tend to, her family lived there already. They tend to either not have a ton of money or have nostalgic ties to the area or want to be near a population center but not be able to afford that. So what happens is there's another breach. of the containment of the zombie. She sees a zombie. She goes to save her neighbor, who is this dim frat bro named Chad. She goes to save him, armed with sadly only a burrito because she does not have her knife with her as she usually does. It turns out that Chad is not actually Chad. Chad is not a 20-something frat bro. Chad is actually a super old and kind of cranky vampire named Max. And he actually ends up kind of saving her instead, despite her best efforts. And then the issue becomes, well, what do they do? Because all the things the government is supposed to do when there's a breach, none of them are happening, which means there's
Yeah.
no warning for any of her neighbors. And a lot of what drives Edie is sort of a sense of wanting to protect her community and wanting to, after her parents passed away trying to protect her from the last zombie breach, not wanting to sort of hide away while other people get killed again. And so she wants to go out and save her neighbors. He wants to keep her safe and keep himself safe because he's a lot more cynical than she is. But she convinces him otherwise, and they go out on an adventure to try to warn their neighbors and find out what's happening and why. That was a lot longer than you probably wanted, but that is
No,
that's what
it's
the book is about.
perfect. Yeah, no, it's absolutely great. And I'm kind of, as you're talking, I'm like I have all these things going on in my head because there's two things that I wanted to make sure I mentioned to you is I I have a confession to make because I have a deep and abiding zombie phobia. I can
Okay.
watch just about anything except people munching
Mhm.
on other people. So
Yes.
I I really had to think about reading this book for the show.
Mhm.
But I love paranormal romance and I'm like, just go for it, face your fear, that sort of thing. So it was a lot of fun. The story itself, it was a lot of fun. It was great. The meet cute with the burrito and her trying to whack a zombie with the burrito. It was all so much fun, and so that really set the tone of the book for me. And I'm like, okay, you just let the brain sucking, just push that right out of your head, kind of thing, right? But and the other thing is I really want to hear you sing the Gaston
Yes.
song, Gaston. I want to hear you sing that song so bad, but I will not do that to you.
You know,
So good.
that was a happy. First of all, I'm sorry about the zombie thing. I will say I don't think the book, it's actiony and it has some suspense, but I don't think it's super scary, I hope. So hopefully it
Yeah,
wasn't too
no.
traumatizing for
No.
you.
No,
Uh,
no, 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 no. There was a couple of parts where I was like, oh, I wonder if when she wrote that, if she had any squeamish moments, drafting a couple of the scenes. But other than that, I was just like, it did not have that effect on me. I grew up with Tales from the Crypt, but there were a couple of shows in there that had, people eating people, and I couldn't watch it anymore after that. So
and
that's
that
why
was
I'm scarred. Um,
actually the first decision I ever made about how I was going to tell the story was that the zombies could not be former people. Like, because to me, there was an inherent sort of gravity and sadness to like her former neighbors and stuff being the ones that she
mhm.
has to kill in this case.
Yeah.
That I did not want to grapple with when I wanted the tone to be lighter. So that's why although I tried to sort of acknowledge that there is some inherent sadness anyway, because these are
Yeah.
semi-sentient creatures, but that I did not want them to be like former neighbors or like her former family, God forbid. Like that I didn't want to do that because that was to me not where I wanted to go with that. I'm trying to think. There was something you said. The first thing you said was about the trauma. And
Oh, the Gaston and
oh,
the singing the song. Yeah.
that was a happy accident because I knew I was like, well, what's his original name going to be if he's super old? So I went back to like, what are some French medieval names? And one of the names on the list was like that I found was Gaston. I'm like, Like, that would be hilarious.
That was so great. It was great. It was really great. Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. Like I say, yeah, you set the tone for the book right away, and so yeah, it was all good. But I had to share that with you because I really will not watch a zombie movie. So you got me through. You got me over that. That's all good. All good. So Edie makes handcrafted soap for her business, which I think is just so interesting. I live in an area where there's a big artisan community, and always
Mhm,
at this time of the year, I always stock up on soaps from the craft fairs and farmers markets and things. But I've
mhm.
never tried making any myself, and so I was just really curious: is that something you've done, or was it more research for the book that you because you included some information about her hand soap making in
I learned too much about
it.
cold process soap making, which is what she does, during the course of researching for the book. I tend to fall down rabbit holes,
Mm,
and in recent years, I know that YouTube has been around longer than the last 5 years, but since basically the beginning of the pandemic, that has involved YouTube, and one of my favorite. People on YouTube is Sophia Nygaard,
mm,
and she did a couple of ones where she tried making soap based on, I think, Brambleberry, which was a brand that has instructional videos too. I thought it was fascinating. And so I started, when I was thinking about what Edie could do that would sort of keep her in her home, so some sort of home business, I started watching all these videos of people making just gorgeous, amazing custom
yeah.
soaps with different, patterns and scents and uh, textures, and I just found it fascinating. So anything I become obsessed with shows up in my books sooner or later. so,
Yeah.
um, so yeah, so Edie, yeah, I made her a soap maker, and at the time, particularly when I was writing it, I could have told you so much about a process that I've never personally experienced.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's great. No, you did a wonderful job. And after uh, reading those passages, I'm like, oh man, maybe I don't want to make soap. There seems to be a lot to it, with all the lye and all the things that while it's curing and just I don't know how even like in one of the scenes, he talks about it, it being science versus art versus commerce kind of thing, right?
Mhm,
And that whole science part of it, where things, whenever you're putting different elements together, that
mhm.
I think you call it, was it ricing or something like that,
It can
where
cause ricing where the
yeah,
texture goes off and it looks like there's little grains of rice in it. Yeah.
okay, okay,
Um, but there is, if you ever want to do it, there is hot process soaps or soaps where you can get basically pre-made soap and you shred it up and then you can add your own scents and your own colors and things so that
ah,
you don't have to use lye if you don't want to use lye, because I think lye is the part that I think is worrisome, and you have to be more careful about it. But
yeah.
if you're not going through, I think if my research, if I remember correctly, the saponification process, if you're not doing that with the lye, then I think that it's easier. So I think it's still something you could experiment with. Just,
Yeah. Well, maybe
don't.
I'll just do candle making instead of soap making. Maybe that'll be easier. Alrighty. Well, one of the things that I like to dive into on this show is finding the story's undercurrent with the author, and that's that what I call the second beating heart of the story that tends to flow
Mhm.
beneath the lover's journey, and it also helps, propel the story forward. What undercurrent do you think is flowing beneath Edie and Max's story?
I think that there is a larger sort of, hopefully not like didactic, but a sort of a larger sort of undercurrent of talking about what it means to be part of a community, and and sort of how very different people can work together and communicate with one another and sort of learn to trust each other enough to sort of band together to protect the vulnerable amongst them. And sort of a lot of the sort of second half of the book, they're still working through their personal romantic journey, but it's also about neighbors, a lot of whom are naturally sort of, have some antipathy toward each other in some
Yeah.
cases, um, sort of banding together to protect their neighbors. And like
Hmm.
that is, I think that that probably is that I know that obviously since I wrote it, that's not like an accident. Like when this
Yeah.
was written, this was written a couple years ago. So in aftermath of the early years of the pandemic, but
Hmm.
also, different things happening sort of in the world and
Hmm.
politically, and sort of the idea that it's the caring about your community and your neighbors, and that it's easier to fight against forces that may seem overwhelming, or malignant forces that may seem overwhelming. It is sometimes easier to fight against them, not only with other people, but with joy and with laughter. That like it has to be, the joy makes the fight easier
Hmm.
sometimes.
Yeah.
uh and so I think that is probably not entirely an accident, that's in there.
Hmm. No, that's great. That's great. Thank you. Well, one of the things I like to talk to the authors about, because this is a romance novel, and our readers do love our tropes. Our romance readers love our tropes, which I think you, as a friend of mine, used to say, "Trope the hell out of this," which is great. Um, what can you name maybe two or three tropes that readers can look forward to while reading this story?
I mean, I think my catnip is always forced proximity. Like
Yeah.
I love forced proximity, and given the circumstances of sort of what's happening, they are sort of forced together into close company. First in his sort of underground lair, as she said, Chad's like cave of dreams, like under there, and then on the road, sort of the road trip idea. I do the touch her and die, I think they call it, sort of that he's protective of her while she still is very active in her own right. He would like to
Mhm.
protect her more than she's willing to be protected. There is an age gap in the sense that
Just a little bit.
she's in her late 30s. So like she's not like,
Yeah.
she's not in her early 20s. She's in her late 30s, but he is probably like at least 700, 800 years old. So technically there is an age gap, even though he looks
Yeah.
like he's in his early 20s.
Yeah.
So I mean those are some of my faves.
Which is kind of fun because it's almost a reverse age gap then, right? Because she's 38 and then he looks like he's in his lower 20s and then but
Hmm.
yeah, it's that's fun. I didn't think about that before. That's great.
Which is part of the
De
reason she never thought of him as an option, because I mean, not that, she's just like he's basically a kid to her, and he was coming
yeah,
across as kind of, again, not
dopey.
particularly helpful.
Yeah. Great. What romance book have you read recently that you would recommend and maybe tell us why?
If someone people like sort of funny, paranormal, a little bit off the wall, a little goofy. Uh, the sort of the queen of that, I think, in recent years is Kimberly Lemming. She just came out with "I got abducted by aliens and now I'm trapped in a rom-com." So, and she is so unafraid of sort of following whatever sort of creative path. She does a ton of research. So
Yeah.
like there's that too. So all of it is grounded in research, but she's unafraid to follow sort of whatever wild hair her imagination takes her. And she's super funny and super smart. And I think that she is fantastic.
Great, great, great. Alrighty, I'll make sure to put that in the show notes. I always like to, I guess, expand our readers' options as far as what books to grab a hold of. So that's great. Let's just go behind the scenes a little bit and find out a little bit about you as the writer. What is a favorite thing that you like to do when you finish a book? And it's like, how do you celebrate or treat yourself?
That is an excellent question. It is, I would say my friends and I are pretty terrible about this generally. In my case, a lot of what I do is we get really good takeout. There's a better restaurant in town and we get very good takeout. I think what's hard is that it is, I need to do better about it. Like, frankly, I need to do better about it. But it's hard because there's so many finish lines. There's the I
Right.
finished the draft finish line. There's
Mm.
the I finished my initial round of edits finish line. There's the I finished edits based on my, beta readers, my most trusted sort of readers. There's edits from the, my official editors, my publisher, copy edits. There's so many sort of little mini finish lines that it's hard to
Hmm.
know which of those is the
When to
one.
celebrate.
and
Right.
and maybe the answer is you celebrate
Yeah.
all of them because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, there's sometimes can be a difficult industry, so you should celebrate where you can. And you can't predict sort of how a book is going to do or its reception, but you can celebrate that you wrote a book out of
Right.
nothing, a blank
Hmm.
page, and out of your head you created something. That is something to be celebrated. Um,
Absolutely.
I do post on, I used to be on Twitter, but now Bluesky. There's my favorite GIF of, it's a, it's two people, I think, probably in a zebra costume. I assume two people, at a dancing at like a party, and that zebra looks like super triumphant and like pleased with himself, like I'm awesome, and I call him the zebra of triumph. So I post that gift. I like bring forth the zebra of triumph.
Nice.
And
Nice.
I preserve that for when I finish a draft.
That's great. That's great. I love that. I love that. See, you do have something. That's wonderful. All right, good deal. So, besides reading, what is your favorite thing to do when you're not writing?
I My goal last year was to find a hobby that did not involve my computer and actually did not involve necessarily books, because books have always been my main escape, but I want something that was completely separate from my work,
Yeah.
in every way.
Hmm.
So I started doing two things, both of which I ended up loving. I tried a couple of things. I was like, yeah. I started doing some of the adult Lego sets, which
Okay.
it turns out I absolutely love doing. Like they have some botanical ones, like beautiful flower
Nice.
arrangements. I just did one that's unfortunately it's no longer available, but like a haunted house
Ah,
one, which
neat.
is super cool. And there's one of the Milky Way, which is gorgeous. It's all
Wow.
these different colors, and it's beautiful. It's up on our wall, and diamond painting randomly, but
Yeah.
diamond painting old. Like I love older. Well, I love some modern art too, but art that was not meant as a diamond painting, but they render it into a diamond painting. So like I just did I may be the only person on the face of this earth who's done this kid. I did Franz Marc, he was a cubist in the early 1900s. He has this incredible painting called The Foxes. It's a cubist one of foxes, and amazing. I found a diamond painting kit of it on Amazon UK, nowhere
Wow.
else. I do not think anyone else has ever gotten this kit. But I got this kit and I just finished it, and I am super happy with it. I
All
don't
right.
think there's like a ton of people out there doing like cubist diamond painting. That's what I am doing.
Are you going to put a picture of that up on social, or is that just for you?
It is, I put it sometimes my newsletter. I will say like
Okay.
one of my I try to give a little bit of, so it's not just
Got
here
it.
are my,
Yeah.
where it's not promotional, that there's some stuff there where I'm talking about like what's happening in my life otherwise. So yeah,
Yeah.
and honestly, like I said, when I get obsessed about something, it shows up one way or the other. So I'm like, you might not want to see a picture of Cubist foxes in your inbox, but guess
I
what?
have to say I'm very curious now. Absolutely very curious.
Guess what? It's showing up in your inbox.
Good, good. All right, perfect. Love it. All right. Well, before we go, can you give us a hint about what's coming up next?
I have a book coming out in November. It's one of my contemporary romantic comedies. It's called Second Chance Romance, and that is the follow up it's a different couple, but it is connected to At First Spite. It's set in a fictional small town called Harlots Bay. And I am really excited about that. And then we have the follow-up to ZOMROMCOM. It is a secondary character that we meet in the course of the book, Gwen, who is an oracle, but
Oh,
not a
nice.
particularly powerful oracle. She
Yeah.
really can only predict very kind of piddly stuff. But she kind of takes over the story. She and has to go get the help of a demon that she has not seen in 20 years since she was 18, in a very not great like interaction with him 20 years ago, and get his help to sort of figure out. Now there's a the zombie story, the next one is not zombie focused, but it does say they need to figure out who loosed the zombies and why, and that is what she's dealing with. So I think that the official title is World's Okayest Oracle Reluctantly Seeks Demon. So uh,
Nice.
and that is with my editors. I should be getting edits on that within a couple of weeks, and I'm super excited about it. I had a lot of
Yeah.
fun writing it.
Yeah. Well, that's the neat thing about the world that you build. I know that I talked about zombies a lot, and it was more for fun than anything, but um you have the zombie element is in here, but you also have a lot of other paranormal um beings, enhanced humans, things like that that you've built into this world. So I think you've got a lot of fodder to just pull this series out for as long as you want. I think it would be great.
I try to give myself lots of room to play,
Yeah.
like just a lot of room to play in the world so that I wasn't boxing myself in for potentially future books. And it was really been a delight. It was fun to sort of focus on different sorts of people and creatures for the next book.
Yeah, great, great, great. Well, folks, when this episode airs, Romcom will be out, so be sure to order your copy today. You can check out Olivia's website at oliviadade.com. Olivia, you mentioned social media a little bit. You said you're on Bluesky. I assume it's Olivia Dade, or is that your handle, or is it something different?
My handle is Olivia Writes,
Olivia writes. Okay,
WRITES dot
okay.
bluesky dot social. But if you go into Blue Sky and just look up Olivia Dade, I have
It'll
my
pop right up.
black and white sort of little, it's a lady with glasses and a bun looking happy, an
Yeah.
illustration. That's me.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for joining. I know readers are going to have a fun time reading this story. I know I did.
Well, it was a delight chatting with you. And again, I'm just really pleased that I'm honored that you read the book and really pleased to talk with you.
Yeah, anytime. Come back anytime. Well, many thanks to everyone listening. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Undercurrents of Romance. You can find more information about the show at tracydevlyn.com/podcast. Undercurrents of Romance is a proud member of the Authors on the Air Global Radio Network. I'll be back soon with another great romantic read. In the meantime, enjoy the adventure, everyone.